wanted to talk a little bit about was what I call the 4-direction send-out game. And what I do, I play this sometimes with my dogs, maybe every 3 or 4 months. And this is after we've already started kind of the one-directional IGP send-out, the straight-ahead send-out. So they have that, they understand the concept, and this is just a game I play to really do a couple things. So one is to really help balance the speed, the power, and the control we need for a really good exercise. And it's also used to help them generalize that no matter where they are, on my home field or a strange field, to run in the direction that I send them. In other words, I don't want them to think the send out is to always run to one spot on a field, because that can lead to some problems. And nor do I want them to necessarily run to what they think is the correct spot. I want them to run where I tell them to run to that. And you know, when I think about it over the years, probably 80% of the time when I compete, I'm competing on a field that's not my home trial field. It's not my home field or my club's home field. So you know, just last year we were in 2 trials. One had a send out that really had probably another half mile of just open field behind it, so there was no goal post or soccer goal to run to. And then the other one had 3 big trees, but again, if my dogs trained only to run to an object, they could pick the wrong tree and run at an angle and cost me some points. So I'm just trying to generalize with this game, run in the direction I tell you to run until I tell you to stop. Also, the reason I like the game, it's a very efficient use of my time. There's probably, most of the time I train by myself, so I can set up the field for 10 or 12 different send-outs at once rather than having to reload the field over and over. So basically what I do with this game is I stand in the middle of my field and I have 4 sets of bumpers set up. So north, south, east, and west. And for a young dog, I'll have them closer and visible. For an older dog, they're much farther away. And for a more experienced dog, they're not visible. So they're running blindly to the directions I tell them to go. And you know, part of the way I do it on my home field is I have those strips of grass that I think Connie and Peter Shirk mentioned once, have a taller strip of grass where for a young dog I can have the bumper in front of, for an older dog I can put it behind the strip of grass so they can't see it. A couple other things I like about the game is one is it's really, you know, what I want the dog to also learn is to do this at a longer distance than the typical IGP send out. I don't want a dog that counts steps. I don't want a dog that goes 20, 30 steps and then automatically downs. So again, I want it to run in the direction I want it to run. And as far as background, one of the moments that really brought that home to me is I was watching our training director, Bridget Carlson, work her non-IGP dogs. She was working her working line golden retrievers. And those dogs all had better send-outs than any IGP dog I've seen. You know, they'll run hundreds of yards, stop on a dime, turn, change directions, and she's doing a lot of that training with bumpers. So some of the basic bumper work you see I learned from Bridget. She does it at a much higher level in a much more sophisticated way. But those are some of the games that came. And basically it allowed me to say, okay, let's push the dogs, push the distance, really make them understand the exercise. So then when we get in a trial, it'll be hopefully that much easier on the dog as far as the direction. And you know, even if a judge gives me what I consider to be a late down, the dog will not have a problem with it. I guess a couple other tips. One would be if you get a noisy background or a rough visual background, you can make it a little easier for the dog. You can put the bumper on its side, stack it on its side so it's taller, or I use a white bumper, so I'll show that in the video. There's a direction in my field that has a trailer. Typically cars would be parked there. You know, the A-frame or the 1 meter jump. So I make that direction a little bit easier than I do the other directions for a less experienced dog. The other thing I think is key is I vary the number of bumpers in each pile. And what I'll do is sometimes I'll leave one direction blank, or I'll put one out there. And the whole idea there is it gives me some optionality in the future when I'm jumping between different directions. I have one direction. If I know it's empty, that's where I can give my dog the down command in a very quiet way. And if they don't listen, they can't self-reward themselves by getting the bumper. I can just take them off the field, That's their punishment. They get taken off the field, and then they come back out, and hours later, or next time, we'll do it again. But it gives me some options there. I think it's also important, even though your dog knows to send out, to be a little bit patient. I mean, they're learning different directions, and what I've found, once the dog learns that it'll be rewarded either in a direct manner or an indirect manner, and it gets some reps, the speed will increase very quickly. One of my concerns when I started this, looking at bumpers, was having the reward on the ground. I used to use a hanging tree. So I thought, well, if the reward's on the ground, will the dog start doing send-outs in a visual way? Will it start looking at the ground? So on a football field or soccer field, where it'll start picking out hash marks or logos, or in the fall with corn husks or leaves on the field, will it start running towards leaves? And that's not the case. Once the dog understands the exercise, knows to keep running in the direction I tell it to run, I'm not really concerned with what's on the ground. And actually, many times I'll add a distraction. I'll put balls or soccer balls or something off the center line I want it to go, and just have it run by those until I tell it to stop, or until it gets its bumper reward. Another benefit of the game is I do get to adjust between two different types of rewards. Depending on the dog's experience level and age, I can either give it a direct reward directly to a bumper, which really helps with power, speed, confidence, or I can throw in an indirect reward. So whether I'm sending it to an empty space, or there is a bumper out there, but I reward it back to me, which really helps with control, with the dog's obedience end of the send out, listening, paying attention, concentrating on me. So I like the fact I can balance both direct and indirect rewards with dogs at different stages. And again, in IGP, we're always working on multiple exercises. So a lot of times I like to take advantage of a picture that I may see while I'm doing this game, and throw in a command that it may see somewhere else in an obedience routine. So, one example is the bring. So if it's coming when it's coming full speed, it's energetic, it's happy, I may say bring, just have it do the sit in front, take the dumbbell out, reward it. I may use a recall or a here command. Again, it may come to a formal front, or what I used to do with G, because he tended to have some slower recalls, is I'd give him that here command when he's running full speed, and then just open up my legs and let him run and get a bumper on the opposite side there. So again, I'm using the speed, the power they're bringing, and layering in another command. Sometimes I simulate the long bite a little bit, in that I'll walk or run towards the dog, yell, and it's not so much that I'm simulating the long bite, but what I'm doing is I'm working on targeting. I'll take the bumper and I'll hold it in the middle with my body, and then I'll drift it one way or the other, so the dog has to learn that targeting while it's running full speed and I'm coming towards it. One big warning is do not use a hard rubber or plastic bumper. If you do that, I use these lightweight Kong brand bumpers, Kong bumpers. They're super lightweight, they're very soft, and they're almost hard for the dogs to bite because they are so lightweight. If they hit them at a high speed, they bounce off unless they really catch them in the right angle. But they're not going to break a tooth on that. It's a very safe way to do it. So, early on with the dog, what I'll do is I'll classically condition that the dumbbell stand is telling them that the send out is next. So I'll get in the middle of the field, I have my bumper set up on 4 directions, my dumbbell stand, and I'll click the dumbbell, make that noise, placing it into the metal stand, give them their send out cue, and then send them right away. So within that 1.5, 2 seconds at most, it's click, where's your toy, send it, where else? And after 10, 12 reps of that, they learn very quickly that those 2 other markers can be used to help tell them what's coming up next. The other thing I like to do, just to keep the dog's mental aspect, keep them paying attention to me, is I'll throw in other commands, whether it's circles, spin, crosses through my legs, barking, those type of things. Just to, again, keep them on their toes, keep them listening to me as we go through different parts of the game. And on my home field, again, I want the dog to understand one spot on the field, but again, I don't want to overdo that. So what I'll do too is I won't just even run north, south, east, west. I'll switch it at another 45 degrees, and I'll run northeast, southwest, northwest, southeast, And the reason I do that is, again, I want the dog to run the direction I tell it to run, not necessarily where it ran last time. And again, I'm not doing it too frequently. And the reason I do this is if you've ever competed on a baseball diamond, you know, the angles aren't rectangular, they're not parallel to the side of the field, the crowd's not always parallel to the side of the field. So the dog may be running at a deep, what it considers kind of a deep angle towards a rounded fence. And then the other thing, the reason I like to do it is again, I don't want the dog picking the first object it sees and running automatically to that, because I've seen dogs, you know, where they're heeling on the handler, they drop their head on the send out and they drop it to the right and they see a high jump pit, or they see where they drag the soccer goals onto the track even though it's supposed to run straight. So again, I want them to change the picture at times so that, again, they run the direction I tell them to run, not what maybe be the first thing they see or the last place they ran in a different situation.
Oj,
This one, stay on me a little bit on the way back.
Yeah.
Hey! Hey! Good job, bud. Bud. Hey! Yeah, bud. Go, bud. Super. Get up. Come on, bud. Let's go. Hey. Get up. Come on, bud. Let's go. Super. Here. Here. Wait. Yes. Rock. What? Get up. Left. One, two, go! Super! Super! Here! Super, bud! What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, What else? Come on, Coop. Let's go. Super. Nice. Yeah. Circle. What? Come on. Come on. What else? Come on, Coop. Let's go. Here. Good job, bud. What else? Come on. Super. Good. Your choice. Your choice. Good. Super. What else? Come on, bud. Let's go. Hey. Hey. Come on. What else? Flat. 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 Wait. What else? Flat. 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 You ready? What else? Come on, bud. Super.
So I hope you found this helpful to either give you some things to think about or work on to both balance your dog's power, speed, and control, but also really put home the message of directionality and for them to run in the direction you tell them to run until you tell them to stop.